On November 22, 1963, U.S. President John F. Kennedy was ambushed in Dallas, Texas, while riding barely protected in a slow-moving motorcade. The event would reshape the course of American history and was, according to many, a coup d'etat that left little of democracy but a hollow shell. The powers that had financed, trained, and provided cover-up for the killers, a collusion of governmental, military, and industrial forces, formally brought fascism to America. This charge was echoed by Jack Ruby, who killed Patsy Lee Harvey Oswald within 2 days of Kennedy's assassination.
Everything pertaining to what's happening has never come to the surface. The world will never know the true facts of what occurred, my motives. The people that have so much to gain and have such an ulterior motive for putting me in a position I'm in will never let the true facts come above board to the world.
Now these people are in very high positions, Jack?
Yes.
On September 11, 2001, the air attack against New York City's World Trade Center and Washington's Pentagon was supposedly carried out successfully by 19 fanatical Muslims who presumably outwitted history's most sophisticated intelligence organizations using box cutters and Qurans. In the period of national insanity that followed, Congress and the George W. Bush administration instigated and implemented 2 costly and extended wars, in Iraq and Afghanistan, along with the Patriot Act. This vast document appears to have been created well before the surprise attacks. This legislation has led to a progressive erosion of liberties for citizens of the United States and the world. As for the 2 wars, they, with their attendant costs in human lives and suffering in 3 countries and billions of dollars, have become the monstrous Tweedledum and Tweedledee of U.S. foreign policy, our modern Vietnam, unwinnable and unendable as we careen between them. In subsequent years, information has surfaced regarding the event that has become known simply as 9/11. Thousands who watched the World Trade Center towers, including World Trade Center 7, collapse in precise demolition-style freefall, have come to believe that the Bush administration, including Dick Cheney, Donald Rumsfeld, and other members of the Project for a New American Century, either engineered the attacks with the aid of demolition specialists or allowed them to happen. Bush apologists trot out the incompetency theory, suggesting it's unrealistic that such men could carry out such a massive attack. Yet these same apologists would have us believe that fanatical Arabs could succeed in their vast conspiracy using only faith in Allah and a few hours of flight school. In 1975, a 23-page document surfaced called A Skeleton Key to the Gemstone File, which claimed to be a synopsis of notes amassed by a San Franciscan named Bruce Porter Roberts. His academic specialty in the 1940s at the University of Wisconsin was crystallography, the creation of synthetic gemstones. In one of the few existing pictures of Roberts, this newspaper photo from the Los Angeles Times in 1954 shows Bruce Roberts pinning a synthetic gemstone on the flamboyant entertainer Carmen Miranda. The photo verifies the existence of Roberts and his interest in and success at creating artificial gems. According to the original skeleton key, Roberts had taken some of his synthetic rubies to the Hughes Tool Company hoping for information in exchange for a few of his gemstones. Instead, they stole his rubies, which served as the basis for laser beam research. That episode caused Roberts' profound animosity toward the Mafia generally and his interest in the Hughes organization specifically. Roberts' thesis is simply that the U.S. is controlled by organized crime and has been since at least 1963. The skeleton key history begins in 1932 and ends before the U.S. bicentennial in 1976. More than 3 decades have passed since the file ends, but an understanding of the gemstone thesis provides enough of a pattern for us to recognize the nature of a kinder and gentler U.S. fascism. The author of A Skeleton Key to the Gemstone Files, Stephanie Caruana, remained a mystery to the general public for many years, while the key was widely circulated anonymously. Caruana first created and typed the document on her IBM Selectric typewriter in the spring of 1975, after meeting with Roberts and reading some of his letters at the Norwegian consulate in San Francisco. Initially, she included her name and address on copies she Xeroxed and distributed. After that, however, as the old copies were read and reread so often that they became illegible, the file was retyped, often by people who would add or delete parts according to their taste or bias, and these copies were reproduced thousands of times around the world with her name deleted. Many who have read the key still don't know that Caruana wrote it. Her authorship is noteworthy. She didn't simply cut and paste Robert's letters. She crafted the skeleton key in a distinct style that perfectly suits the material. While Robert's letters, fascinating in their own right, are verbose and repetitive, Caruana employed a sharp, terse grammar and syntax that effectively delivered the action. I first received a copy of Caruana's A Skeleton Key to the Gemstone file in 1976 from my high school history teacher, Henry Denny, in Anaheim, California. The typed original had been copied so many times that some words and letters were unclear or missing. The document was only about a year old then, so clearly there had been a feverish underground effort to get this information out. Henry Denny, now retired, lives in Arizona and still finds the skeleton key to the Gemstone file relevant.
I acquired a copy of the skeleton key from a member of the Anaheim Unity Church in 1975. And since that time, I've made hundreds of copies and given them to colleagues, friends, and people throughout the world. When I first read the skeleton key, I was shocked. It contrasted so much to everything I've learned in all the years in my teaching and history. And so I couldn't quite believe it was truthful, but it did lead me to further investigation. Well, first of all, in the official version, there's too many missing gaps in information. And through the years, I found that too many gaps from the Warren Commission report, for example, on JFK, too many gaps from the other accounts of Robert Kennedy, Martin Luther King, and so many others, that I started investigating much further. And the skeleton key has opened those avenues of inquiry from me to really investigate what went on. And I found that so much information that Bruce Roberts mentioned in the skeleton key became so accurate. He filled in a lot of gaps that was missing from a lot of the official reports. There's so much information that has come out since 1975 to indicate there's a lot of connection with, for example, Aristotle Onassis and the Kennedy family, and a lot of the underworld activities that took place between both of them. There's also a lot of good questions about, for example, the killing of John F. Kennedy and a possible person in the sewer area near the grassy knoll. There's just too much detail that was missing from the Warren report and from a lot of the media at the time. And that has come out today, which indicates there's a lot more involved in this conspiracy.
So considering what you already know about the Kennedy assassination and government complicity in that, do you think official involvement in 911 is plausible or even possible?
It is possible. The problem is, since that time, we've gone into two wars that are really not justified, especially the Iraq War. We've seen a terrific amount of money that has gone into the hands of Halliburton, some of the big corporations of the world that are not benefiting the United States people. And there's too many things tied to that that are helping a few, hurting the American people. So it has led to a disastrous downtrend for most of the people, but not for the large corporations. Since the 70s, and possibly before that, the powerful groups of economic people tied to industrialism, tied to the military, have